Hello, East Moline School District families. I'm Kristin Humphries, your superintendent. The past few months of dealing with a pandemic have been unprecedented in our country and in schools across the United States. We were surprised by the pandemic in March, and I'm proud of how our school district pulled together in a very short amount of time. Although we knew school would change for the fall, we had hoped the pandemic would be much more under control this summer. We must now turn our attention to our return to learn plan this August. We've been very hard at work planning for the past 4 months. We've had discussions and created scenarios based on what we thought the landscape would be in terms of public health and the rules put forth by the Illinois State Board of Education. Just 2 weeks ago, we were finally given guidance from the State Board of Education and the Illinois Department of Public Health on how schools can operate for the upcoming school year. Although it just came out, we have surveyed our families on improving remote learning from the spring. We've asked for preferences on possible options for fall, and we have asked our employees for feedback as well. Just recently, we invited a group of 20 teachers to help us vet a potential plan of instruction. Currently, we have 8 planning groups that are working to finalize guidance on how we will safely educate our students this year. Those planning groups include instruction, safety and health, special services and English learner instruction, preschool, transportation, food service, technology, and communication. As we begin to plan, it was important for us to have guiding principles that will inform our planning. Those principles are: we value the health and safety of all staff, students, and community members, and will follow the Illinois Department of Public Health guidelines. We desire to provide in-person learning as much as possible for all students while following safety guidelines. When necessary, we will prioritize more time for in-person instruction for higher need populations. We believe we should make every attempt to keep families together and attending schools on the same days of the week if possible. We believe that social and emotional supports should be included throughout in-person and remote learning. We believe that we should prioritize core instruction during in-person learning days. Core instruction is math and English language arts at the elementary level, and math, English language arts, science, and social studies at the middle school. We also had to consider factors that may limit our planning for our return to learn. Those factors are: we must abide by social distancing guidelines on our school buses, in common areas, and in our classrooms. Teachers can only teach areas in which they are licensed. Some areas are needed more for in-person learning than others. We will experience revenue shortfalls this year and likely beyond due to the pandemic. In normal times, we already have a shortage of substitute teachers. We believe we must plan to utilize current employees to serve as substitute teachers for this school year. This will also lessen potential risks of exposure by bringing in outsiders to our schools on a daily basis. Our proposed plan is based on the most current information from the Illinois State Board of Education, the Illinois Department of Public Health, information from our stakeholders, including families and employees, as well as available space in our school buildings. Mondays will be a remote learning day for all students in the East Moline School District. For our plan to work, we need to have 1 day per week as a remote day for all students. Because we already missed many Mondays due to holidays throughout the school year, we felt this would be the least disruptive to students and maximize the time we have for in-person instruction. Children with an IEP may need to attend in-person instruction more frequently due to guidelines from the Illinois State Board of Education. We will prioritize core instruction for our students when they are in person. For elementary, our students will receive English language arts and math instruction in person. For our middle school students, they will receive English language arts, math, science, and social studies instruction in person. By focusing on these areas of instruction, we believe it will maximize the time we have when we are together for in-person learning. Last spring caught our schools across the country by surprise. This past spring and summer have allowed us to plan for more rigorous remote instruction. Even though we will be remote learning 3 days per week, new learning, attendance, and grades will be taken. It is important for us to stress that the learning doesn't stop when we leave school. For elementary, remote learning subjects will be science, social studies, library and computer skills, physical education, and music. Our middle school students will continue to work on lessons from core subjects such as math, language arts, science, and social studies, as well as exploratory subjects and physical education. Our preschool planning team has been hard at work preparing for a return to learn for our younger students as well. Mondays in preschool will mirror the same remote learning day we will hold in grades K through 8. However, because of social distancing and space issues, some preschool students will attend in person 4 days each week, while other students will be remote all 5 days. This is based on guidance from the Illinois State Board of Education to prioritize those students with more needs for in-person instruction. These are our schedules for elementary, middle school, and preschool. Due to social distancing and safety and health guidelines, we needed to adjust our transportation schedules accordingly. You will notice that elementary starts earlier than middle school. Elementary will start by 7:40 a.m. and dismiss for the day by 12:40 p.m. Because we are limiting the number of adults with our students, teachers will not receive their lunch or planning time until after the school day is over. They will use this time to plan for their students who are remote learning and in person. The opposite will hold true for middle school. Their planning will be in the morning before students arrive. School will start at 9 a.m. and dismiss at 2:15 p.m. Our preschool start and end time is relatively close to what it is now, but they have an AM and PM session consisting of 2 hours each. The Illinois Department of Public Health and the Illinois State Board of Education have mandated the use of masks for every individual in our buildings to be worn at all times. Because each child is different, we ask that families provide a mask for their child. We recommend something that can be washed and brought back to school each time they return for in-person learning. We will have masks available for students that forget theirs, but we strongly recommend finding one your child feels comfortable wearing and only utilizing the disposable mask at school when they forget theirs at home. Our Safety and Health Planning Committee is hard at work coming up with guidelines on hand washing, cleaning procedures, and how we can work to help each other enforce social distancing guidelines as much as possible. We plan to work with our families and students to practice these procedures when we do return to in-person learning. Currently, we are in phase 4 of the Restore Illinois plan. That means we can have up to 50 individuals in one space if social distancing guidelines can be accommodated. If we were to slip back to phase 3 because of public health concerns, the East Moline School District would likely need to enter back into remote learning for all students and employees until such time the governor and the Illinois Department of Public Health move us back to phase 4. In the guidelines, any individuals who have spent at least 15 minutes around an individual that has tested positive for COVID-19 must self-quarantine for 14 days. This is for all employees and students. Practically speaking, this is why we are only teaching specialist classes remotely. If one teacher were to see all of the students in a school building, it could be very problematic if that teacher were to get COVID. This also means that any classroom with a positive test from a student or employee would mean that class must self-quarantine for 14 days. That would mean we would switch just that classroom over to remote learning for the quarantine period. It could also mean if the teacher has another classroom on opposite days, that they too would need to go to remote learning during the quarantine period. Instead of being in person, our students would remotely log on at the normal start of our school day and begin their lessons for the day. All families will have the option for their children to attend full-time remotely. We have been hard at work to improve our online learning presence to be prepared in case our school district needs to be fully remote. Registration will be online this year, and when we announce it when it opens, you will have the opportunity to choose a remote learning option for your child. They will still register with your home school with a teacher at your child's grade level. Anyone who chooses this option must remain on remote learning until the end of the semester. You can also decide on different options for different children in your family if you wish. The 2 options we are presenting are in-person 2 days per week and 3 days of remote, or 5 full days of remote learning. We will have registration information for all of our families in the next 2 weeks. Registration will be held online this year, so please watch for those important announcements. Your feedback is extremely important to our school district. Please use the links provided to help inform our thinking as we continue to tweak our return to learn plan in the East Moline School District. This survey will close on Thursday at 5 p.m. We will present a final plan to the Board of Education in a meeting very soon. Thank you for taking the time to help us serve our families for the upcoming school year. Together, we do better.